I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Please, the honor is all mine. First of all, I want to hear congratulations on order. You were named to the time list of the 100 most influential people for a second time, by the way, if I remember correctly. I'd like to know, congratulations, I'd like to say, first of all. And secondly, how does that feel for you?
Thank you for that. I tell you something? Maybe you can help me decide this. Should I go to this thing? It's a big gala on Thursday, and I'll tell you something, Stephen A. I When I first got named to the list back in 2014, I thought it was a big deal because my career was just kind of on the upswing and it meant something to me.
Mhm.
Now I have to be honest, it means absolutely nothing to me. When they, called, I was like, whatever. All these people hate me and everything I stand for, and they're very annoying. But then I was like, maybe I'll show up just so I can sort of telegraph the FU message in like a really great dress on the red carpet. Then I'm like, well, that's not
Mm.
the spirit. I've really been wrestling with whether I should even pay any attention to this at all
Well,
or just go on about my life.
Megan, I am the worst person in the world you should ask that question to because I could give less than a damn about these things most time. I like to show courtesy
Hey,
and respect to people who give it to me, but I'm not in this business to be celebrated. I want to be respected. I want to get paid for my hard work. But in the same breath, I don't need applause and accolades and celebratory folks around me. I could care less. Not to mention the fact that you did say a lot of them can't stand you, so why should you be in their presence? But then again, it's recognizing how influential you are and showing up. That might not be such a bad thing. And you don't mind rubbing it in somebody's face from time to time. I can tell that about you.
yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just not really looking to achieve the
Right.
approval of anybody who would be at that thing. But then I heard that there's
Mm.
a possibility both Meghan Markle and Blake Lively will be there, in which case I was like,
Okay.
well, I'm definitely going. I'm going with my iPhone and I'm going to have to go over them and try to get them to say something to me. Like I've reported
There you
so
go.
much on both of them. Like that's almost
Right.
irresistible. So I don't know. I have a couple days to decide.
Yeah, listen, you think about it, whatever choice you want to make, you want to make. And listen, nobody can say a damn thing to you because it's been earned. Make no mistake about it. I mean, you're a person that's been around for a long time. You've done exceptional work. I know I'm not supposed to say these things, but I am a fan. I have been a guest on your
Oh.
show. I do watch you a lot. And damn it, you've proven me wrong on several occasions. So here I stand down with that. Megan Kelly, when you talk about people not liking you, most of them can't stand you. Why do you think people would feel such negative thoughts towards you today, if you had to guess?
Well, if you have Trump derangement syndrome, then you don't like me because I've supported the president and defended a lot of the things that
I
they
mean, shoot, if you have Trump derangement syndrome, you don't like me either. So, I mean, hey, shout out me and Megan Kelly share that. If you have TDS, you do not like set.
tell us are
That's
Hitler-esque
fine. That is perfectly fine.
about Trump. So, I get caught up in that whole fervor. And a lot of people hate Fox News, so they don't like me from those years. And a lot of people believe, just negative things, negative hit pieces that are put out on you over the years. And they tend to be very left. Normal lefties, I think, are fine with me. All my friends are normal lefties. But far left lefties, those are not my fans, and that's fine. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I can be off-putting in certain commentary of mine, but for the most part, if you know me, you probably like me.
Got you.
Well, do you find yourself to be a righty, or do you find yourself to be somebody who's just anti-left because of what the left represents in the eyes of a lot of people in this day and age?
Hmm.
That's a good question
Actually,
because
that is a good question. I would like to ask some of y'all because some of y'all aren't really left. I do confuse you guys as left, and I apologize if I do. But some of y'all honestly just don't like the left, but you don't like Donald Trump either. And that's actually a very funny thing to me. It's like, okay, so you don't like the left, which is understandable, but you don't like Donald Trump either, which is also understandable. You have every right to disagree with the man. It's just I'm wondering here. It's just like, where do y'all get y'all information to disagree with them? Because, like I said, I talked to you guys, and to be quite honest, is like you don't know what's going on. You run off every fear mongering point of the left, so therefore you can be confused as from the left. And I would do say, make sure you watch where you're reading your news articles from. Like I said, go to Ground News, and I say read in the middle. Actually, read all sides. Read from the middle, the left and the right. But please don't just read from one article. Don't trust one news publication. Don't trust one news station to give you all your information. That's just never a smart way to go. And if that's what you want to do, I mean, make sure you research all the sources. If you want to do that lazy research like that, just looking at CNN all day or MSNBC. or even just looking at Fox News. All right, there you go.
I don't really describe myself as conservative. When people write about me, they say like, "Oh, conservative podcaster," and it always kind of jars me a little. Like that's not quite right.
Mhm.
I'm a registered independent. I was raised a Democrat. I voted Democrat for many, many years. Um, and then I just started drifting rightward when the country lost its mind. When I was on Fox, I would say I was probably about a 6 on the ideological scale if Hannity's a 10.
Mhm.
And now I'm like an 8.5. But I don't really feel like I changed at all. I just feel like the country changed, and I looked down at the same spot where my feet were, and things had shifted underneath me. But I'm definitely not a liberal. I can't think of anything I'm liberal on. So I think it's probably a fair
Mhm.
label to call me a conservative. It just doesn't really.
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, no, I guess if smoking weed is liberal, then I guess I'm liberal on that point. And I guess if not supporting Israel, like not supporting a genocide, is I mean, they say I'm liberal for that as well. So I have some liberal stances, but it's just funny though. It's like I said, you agree with Trump, and for some reason, everybody like say, "Oh, you're agreeing with a pedophile, rapist, and all this good stuff," but they have no proof. It is a bit funny. I mean, like, hey, if you guys are gonna sit here and try to shun us for, I guess, agreeing with somebody you see has a ill moral character, then prove it. Then prove it. But guess what? I've already heard everything and I've already debunked everything when it came to this man's character. So I don't even know what to tell y'all. Y'all ain't doing no convincing on this side. It's best you argue policies instead of trying to argue about this man's character flaws that you think you know about. I mean, y'all still think this man was working with Epstein, and he's the main person in his administration, the only administration that's been trying to leak the Epstein files. And let's be real, the only person that's actually hopped on Epstein's ass. So let's be quite honest. If Trump was against Epstein, if Trump was for Epstein, then we still wouldn't have found out about him because Epstein got caught up during the Trump administration.
Really resonate with me.
When do you believe that the country shifted to a point where you could no longer find yourself remotely identifying with the left? What year was that? What issue was that? When do you believe that happened for you?
Well, it was probably 2017, 18, 19, and then the explosion of 2020 wokeness really did me in. Because I was always
Mhm.
railing against what we used to call political correctness. Remember Bill Maher's show was called Politically
Yeah.
Incorrect. It wasn't
Yeah.
called wokeness up until like the late teens or
Mm.
1920 or 2020. And
And then, like, see, you guys argue like this. You guys kind of argue like children. It's like you didn't even hear my whole point. I said pertaining to his character. If you want to show me proof that maybe some elements of his policy may not work, I'll be definitely willing to hear you out. But when it comes to elements of his character, whatever you guys want to show has already been debunked across the board. So when you sit here and make those childish arguments of, "Oh, I can't show you nothing now," it's like, bro, what are you, a kid? Like, can we like talk like adults here? And not just kind of like, I know I be talking for a little bit, but let's not pick out one sentence of what I'm saying and take it as that's the entire topic of what I was talking about. Please, let's be a little bit more educated in how we respond.
that I really I'm devoting my life to fighting wokeism. I can't stand it. I think it's the most pernicious, dangerous force that's in America today or in the world today in some ways.
Mhm.
So if there's anything associated, an association between the left and wokeness, I abhor it. I fight it. I want nothing to do with it. And I would never wear a team jersey that would associate me with that. And I think most Republicans feel that way, and most conservatives do too. So whatever that is, I'm totally anti
Mhm.
it. So is Bill Maher, incidentally, but he still votes Democrat. But
Mhm.
I'm just as vehemently anti woke, and I vote Republican these days.
Define wokeism in the eyes of Megyn Kelly, because so many people sit up there and talk about, well, woke used to mean something different. I know that woke meant being conscientious and being observant and paying attention to what was going on, but obviously that's taken on a different definition over the last several years. So in your mind, what you abhor about wokeism, how it's defined in your mind, tell us what that is.
Well, it's an obsession with identity. And it tends to be, it could be feminism, as the left uses that term, which is very unattractive to me. But it's the two main pillars are race essentialism and gender radicalism, where they tell young white kids in school that they're born with original sin that can never be overcome. And they tell young brown and black kids in school that they're born with some sort of inherent perceived defect that we're really sorry they were born with, but we'll try to give them a bunch of advantages to get them through,
Bruh.
which is totally disempowering. And on the
Yeah.
gender madness,
I mean, instead of telling black kids, you're like, yo, you can perform on the same level, if not better than all these other races. No, we kind of tell them that, oh, you're a victim because of slavery and all this, and this is why the government should just give you handouts and meritless positions because you're black and slavery. So yes, you deserve to go above other people of merit because you're black and slavery. Wild.
it's there's really no such thing as gender. It's a social construct. You can be whatever you want to be. Biological sex is totally irrelevant. And sex is merely assigned at birth by some errant doctor, but you'll decide. You'll just be a little baby until you tell your parents whether you're a girl or a boy. And by the way, if you make a mistake, you can easily, with very little trouble, switch over to the other sex later, without talking about the severe impacts that has on you physically and psychologically. All of that is just, I can't, I can start down any of those lanes, but they're all very, very dangerous.
Why do you believe the left took on that course? I mean, I will tell this to you and I will confess this to you. As a black man in the United States of America, a part of a populace that represents a little bit over 13% of the population, closer to 14, around 13.6%. I think one of the things that I found utterly appalling is that some of these issues usurped African Americans, immigrants who came across the border legally, of course, some of the Hispanic population or what have you. It seemed on the left to usurp the interest of that voting bloc that supported Democrats for decades. And to me, that's not mentioned enough, but I'm not afraid to mention it. And I've mentioned it on several occasions. Why do you believe the left went about that business, especially when it came to transgender issues, for example, when it might have affected 1% of the population, if not less, compared to that 13% or more as it pertains to the black or Hispanic population? Why would the left do that in your estimation?
I think a huge piece of it is the death of religion amongst the left. They just became more and more secular. And the more they squeezed God out of the public square. And
I would say, and not all the left, but I would say, yeah, the left got pretty godless, got pretty selfish. You should be for yourself. F kids. F America. It's all about just being for yourself. And let's be honest, that's not what we need in these crucial moments in American history. We need a more unifying message, and the left did not have that message, but Trump did. Like I said, I would just say America was looking for a unifying message, and all the Dems did was give you a divisive one. Look at you guys in the chat right now. Like, come on now. Come on. You're being a bit divisive now, but it is what it is, though. At least you here to listening to me. So the barrier's breaking every day, little by little. So shout out to y'all libs who are in here actually listening to me or hearing me out.
And out of their private lives, the emptier they felt. And the more the natural need for something higher than themselves, bigger than themselves, dominated. And if it wasn't going to be Jesus or God or, Muhammad, it wound up being skin color and your lady parts, and your oppression, which really worked for them. And by the way, it worked for them politically too. So it had added benefits, made them feel like they were part of something that mattered, made them feel somewhat better than, like, I'm better than you because I actually care about women. You see, I actually care about trans people. See, I care about black people.
Bro, nah, that's literally y'all, though. That is literally y'all. It's like I have this condescending, narcissistic view of other people because you feel like you care about trans women more. You care about black people more when y'all really don't. Like, y'all need to cut the bullshit on that. What you really care about is the black women and the black gays. You don't give a fuck about the black men, but that's a whole nother topic.
That mattered, made them feel somewhat better than, like, I'm better than you because I actually care about women. You see, I actually care about trans people. See, I care about black people. If you're not favor race quotas, you're a racist. Those kinds of messages made them feel higher than, better than, which worked to fill some sort of, ego need they had. But I really think ground zero on the whole thing was pushing religion out of people's lives, pushing technology in, increased isolation, and just that fundamental human need to hold on to something, to belong to something, And in the same way some people reach for a bottle or a drug, these people reached for this false god of wokeism with really dangerous effects.
I'm fascinated to be talking to you because there's a lot of things that you say that some of it I may not agree with. Most of it I do.
Hmm.
Most importantly, I find you to be incredibly thorough. You do not play. And I know that when I come on Megyn Kelly's show, I better be ready to answer some questions. I better know what the hell I'm talking about, or at least fess up to the fact that I don't. Otherwise, I'm going to get raked through the coast because she is no joke. That's how I view you. And I don't mind telling anybody that. But the flip side to it is that you've acknowledged, reading up on you, doing some research on you, you've acknowledged that you've become far more opinionated over these last few years than you had ever been in the past. When you were working at Fox News with the Kelly Files, when you were working at NBC, of course, no question about that. And things have transitioned. You're in the news today, for example, because yesterday you just brought up religion as opposed to secular and what have you. And you were in the news for, criticizing the Pope because of this position on the legals. When you look at yourself, first of all, talk about that, why you took that position, particularly in the immediate aftermath of his death. But most importantly, this fearlessness you appear to have now more so than ever before to express your opinions and your thoughts, no matter what the subject matter is. Talk about that for a
Mhm.
second.
Well, the latter is an acquired skill because for most of my career as a journalist, the goal was to hide your opinions, to definitely not
Mm,
share them and to quiet your
mhm,
bias and really just report the facts. And whatever you thought personally, you kept in your personal lane. And that's pretty much how I spent my time as a journalist. And then I got elevated to the prime time of Fox. And that show was the first that became a little bit more opinion. But if you go back and you watch the Kelly File, you won't see a lot of my opinion. I'll argue with people who
that's
say
true.
moronic things, but I wasn't really saying
Mm,
this is where I stand on X, Y, or Z.
right.
And even
You
when
were
I
more of
launched
a
my
mediator.
podcast, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
tried to do that. I remember I had an argument with Mark Cuban, and he lost that argument, but he did win the following point where he said he was pressing me to give my opinion, and I said, "Well, no, I don't have to do that. You're the guest." And he said, "Oh no, not in this lane. You're going to have to give your opinion here." And he was
Mhm,
correct. And so 5 years after
mhm,
launching the show, I give it a lot more freely. It's why people tune in. They want to know where you stand. They want to know what you think about things.
mhm.
It's just a totally different game than straight news journalism. On the Pope,
Yeah, say that again.
um, look, this was a very liberal Pope. He was a very progressive guy
Mhm,
Damn.
within the Catholic Church, and he was controversial amongst really
mhm,
diehard Christians. They didn't really much love what he did to the Catholic Church. They certainly didn't love his announcements on immigration and how we really needed to welcome all the migrants. It's like, you know what? Why don't you tell it to Lake and Riley's family as they grieve the loss of their daughter, and Jocelyn Ngara's family as they grieve the loss of their daughter, their 12-year-old in Texas? Like, we don't need a guy who lives in the Vatican surrounded by walls telling us we can't have walls and we need to have an open borders policy. He was from Latin America. Most of the immigrants coming into the United States that we're trying to
mhm.
deal with right now are from Latin America. He clearly had a bias the other way. And the Catholic Church, this has been my own beef, but that of many Catholics, has been taking a bunch of money in cooperation with the government to try to find homes for these illegal immigrants who come in here. So, like on Sunday Mass, I never know what my money's going to anymore. Now I try to make sure,
Mhm.
is this going to help priests, or this church, or this rectory? Because I do not want to help find housing for illegals.
But Megan, you know this better than me, or at least as well as me, because we've both been in journalism for decades now. There's one thing to say that. It's another thing entirely to say that in the immediate aftermath of his passing. Back in the day, they would have been like, why are you saying this now? Could this not have waited a few days or whatever? So I think along those lines, and the question that enters my mind is, I'm not questioning that you feel what you said you feel. I'm wondering the timing of it. Did you do it because of your disgust with the left and how, especially back in the day, and if they could do it this way even right now, they would have asked the question, what about decorum? What about waiting? The man just passed away. Where's the level of sensitivity? They would ask that question, Megyn Kelly. What would you say to people who would say something like that to
Hey, and shout out Fox Chase for renewing that membership. Appreciate the support, my man. Let me go ahead and get you that. Make sure y'all join the Discord, man. Well, make sure you join the membership. You can go ahead and get access into the members only Discord. Appreciate the support, guys. Let's keep it going. And you also get special shout outs during streams.
you?
That didn't even cross my mind to not say that. I mean, we're talking about a public figure, one of the most famous figures in the world and leader of the Catholic Church. And necessarily, when a person like that dies, there will be a recitation of some of the key points of his or her legacy.
Hmm.
And in his case, his anti or his pro illegal immigration or immigrant.
You know, it's so crazy though, and uh, so do we believe in a separation of church and state or not? Because it do be kind of funny how Christians will speak and they'll talk about capitalism and all this and how people got to work for healthcare and all and housing and how that's not a human right. And then y'all come right at them and be like, that's not very Christian of you. I'm like, really? The same people that want to talk about a separation of church and state want to bring up somebody's Christianity when they're talking about what health, how you gotta work to have health care and what work to be able to get a house. Like, come on now, guys. Like, pick a lane there.
Immigrant stance was a major piece of his platform, at least insofar as it dealt with the Americas. So, I mean, I'd be remiss not to mention it. Um, I remember after Kobe died, there was a big debate because some journalists were like, he was a rapist.
Mm.
And I remember being like, that is too much because he died so tragically and it had been so many years and he was with his daughter. It was just.
And it will turned out to be a lie. Like, come on now, man. Y'all wild as hell for what y'all did to my man Kobe. But I mean, trust me, it's nothing that really caught fire though, because Kobe was just such a great personality and such a great player that it kind of, I ain't gonna lie, all the BS that people were trying to talk about him kind of got thrown under the rug.
Just such a heartbreaker. And we were in deep shock and mourning he was gone. And that to me did feel very tone deaf. But this is a world leader. Like, of course, you're going to talk about what did they stand for? How did they change the church? What were their public positions? And how does it affect America? Because he was the leader of 1.2 billion Catholics all over the earth, not just the United States. And so how did he relate to us over here? As a journalist in America, you're always looking to do that. Like, tell people, what did he mean to people here, good and bad? That's just the way you do it.
What do you think about people who will look at you and they'll say, what do you stand for, Megyn Kelly, especially now because of your support for the president? You endorsed him. You showed up at the rally. I think it was the night before election.
Yeah.
Made sure to encourage everybody to vote for him. You said you're voting for him, et cetera, et cetera. And we all know how he treated you back in 2015 when you were at Fox.
And shout out to Green Bean. He said, man, Trump handed the Democrats a great America. I know, right? And a great economy. Ain't that crazy? But then, we want to talk about the great economy that Trump gave Biden, that Biden effed up. They'll tell you that, no, that was Obama's economy. And what happened with Biden was actually Trump's economy because everything happens for the president before them. But then, I don't know, when Trump is, in office, it's all Trump's fault. The economy's down because of him. I mean, hold on. What was that happened to that argument of it's all the before president's fault? Like, what happened to that? Like, what happened? What happened to that whole logic? Oh no, it's the last president fault why the economy is this way. Why don't y'all use that for Biden? I mean, but on that logic, we should be able to tell y'all that. Oh no, you should ignore the stock. You should ignore the stock market because that's because of Biden's economy. Because remember what you said when Trump was in office. Okay, then let's just stick to y'all logic because by y'all logic, this is all Biden's fault.
Republican primary debate and what have you. And, he felt that your question was nasty because you brought up quotes that he had said about women in the past, calling them pigs, amongst other things. And all of a sudden he goes on the air and said that you were bleeding out of your eyes or wherever it was or whatever. There are people that still look at you to this very day and say, how could you support somebody that would talk about you that way? This not sudden shift, but this dramatic shift that you had. What about you? What do you stand for and where do you stand on at this particular moment in time? And why is that the case? What do you say to people who ask those questions about you at this particular moment in time?
I think they're totally fair. And I appreciate you changing it from sudden shift to dramatic because it really wasn't sudden.
Yes.
It was a slow climb between Trump and yours truly. When he was attacking me for that 9-month period, I really was not his fan. And I wasn't, really gearing up to vote for Trump because he was staying on me like a dog with a bone. And it was highly unpleasant. But over time, I was able, and I'm actually proud of it, I was able to check my personal feelings about the guy and start getting back to what needs to be my focus as a journalist, which is the professional relationship with the guy, the professional Trump. And what I saw was somebody who governed in a way that I very much respected. There were a couple of key moments in Trump 1.0 where I really did like the double head take at him, like, oh my God, look what he's doing. Like when he stood by Brett Kavanaugh, among other things. And I really respected it and saw him in a new light. And then we got Joe Biden. And I mean, it was such a disastrous 4 years. I probably would have run open armed into the arms of any Republican, but Trump is just the anti-Biden in so many ways and was just tailor made for this moment to take him down and to take the reins of the country back and to take the country back itself. So I really, I don't know how to say this in a way that, isn't weird, but professionally, I fell in love with Trump, the president, because I believed him that he would close the border. I believed him that he would fight back against the gender madness, which has become a very big issue for me for many reasons. I believed him that he was going to try to get DEI out of our colleges and our woke schools. And
he did all that. I mean, the only thing this man ain't did yet was the wars. I mean, ending Ukraine and Israel, but other than that, yeah, he's been knocking out everything he said he was gonna do, just like his last term, just like the last one. The problem is that what you Dems don't understand is that Trump actually did pretty good his first term, and then we had a President Biden who just completely effed up, and now that's why we have Trump again, because Biden just effed up so bad that it made the whole Democratic Party look like, well, honestly, a bunch of closed-minded idiots. No offense.
That he would push back on this, like, truly, not to sound like Tipper Gore, but smut that's being peddled to our K-5 schools in the name of like health ed or whatever they're calling it. But it's absolutely disgusting. Like the sex acts that show up in elementary school libraries, all that stuff. Trump's not having any of that. I believe that he would lower our taxes. I believe that he would be against forever wars. I still believe all those things. I believe he would roll back regulations so that we could get the economy fired up again. I don't believe in the climate extremists and their stupid fake models that already had us underwater by this point in time, and yet we're fine. So the
fact that we believe any of these climate changes, like, well, scammers, these climate change con artists, is actually a bit funny. I mean, how much times have they been wrong and we're still trying to make laws based on their calculations that have been wrong? Like, we're going through global warming. No, we're just in a warming period. Oh, it's global cooling. No, it's just called a cooling period in the world's history. Like, chill, guys. There's no need to make laws that's going to drive up our energy prices over this. Like, y'all need to chill out now.
I believed in Trump, and I do believe in Trump, and he's doing all the things he said he would do. Now they're throwing up obstacles in his way, but I'm 100.
And shout out to my man Vlad Steen. He says, remember, the CCP cares so much for their people that they are publicly stating that they can eat grass in tree bark for years to save face for their government. I know, ain't that wild as hell? Like, and it don't even make sense. Like, can you imagine like a whole group of people just holding out, like, while they're getting like pretty much economically strangled or economically squeezed to death, and they're saying, oh yeah, we're okay with eating grass while our elites eat steak and lobster every night. Yeah, we're okay with eating grass. It's like, do y'all really believe that? You really believe the Chinese people is going like that? And I'm talking about the people, not the government, but the people, because it was kind of crazy. And I guess countries have a way of doing this to us too. Is honestly, they just see us as dollars. They just see us as, well, money. That's all they see American as. Sometimes they don't even see us as people. They just see us as a military force and money. That's all. Well, it's kind of crazy how all that people see China as is the CCP. They believe that everybody's a one hive mind. Everybody just going along with the communist bullshit as their life gets destroyed. And trust me, there's more independent thought or more free thought going on in China than you think.
100% rooting for him. So if anything, I'm just thrilled that I saw the light on him and that I was able to like push my own feelings to the side and get past that. And he got past his negative feelings about me such that I could stand up for him before the election and hopefully convince some people.
Much to my own peril, I'm going to share with you what I disagree with you about when it comes to President Trump, but not before I pay some bills. I'll be right back. The marvelous Megyn Kelly right here with Stephen A. Back with more in a minute. All right, everybody, listen up. with all the big time sports action that's happening each and SAS to get 50th show right here with.
All right, back to it.
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here with Megyn Kelly. Over 3 million plus subscribers on her YouTube channel. She is absolutely phenomenal. I don't give a damn what anybody says. I watch as often as I can, okay? And I'm learning along the way. So I'm going to open myself to being taught here, Megyn Kelly, on a couple of issues involving the president of the United States. I'm not going to say your president. He's our president. He's the president of the United States. I can't stand when people do that. That's not right. That's disrespectful. He's the president of the United States of America. So let's get that out the way. DEI.
I mean, you know what's so crazy? If you don't think there's free thought in China, then you're kind of a racist. So what, you think all these Chinese people just think the same or going along with this? Some of them go along with it because they have to. But if you don't think that they're quick to run to another government, which a lot of them do, because else we wouldn't have a whole lot of Chinese immigrants here. But yeah, there's proof that there's Chinese people with free thought because they don't want to be up under the CCP and they rather be up under a different government, like either, Western government like Europe or America. So obviously they got some free thought, or else every Asian would be up under the CCP. Like, come on now, man. I mean, bro, it's like y'all libs are accidentally racist. Y'all accidental racist. I'm not even gonna call y'all fool, but y'all accidental racist. Y'all say racist shit and don't even know you're a racist. It's like, bro, for real? If you think there's free thought in China, bro, like, bro, you don't think the Chinese people are capable of free thought? Like, are you serious? They're people too, you know. Like, damn, what are they, robots?
Let me explain to you what I think, and then I don't mind hearing what you have to say. I'm looking forward to it. I don't have an issue with people who want DEI gone if it is indeed what you say it is, that there's preferential treatment when we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that there are people that are incompetent, that are placed in positions. Certainly, I understand that part. My problem, Megyn Kelly, is how do we ignore its existence to begin with, where it originated from? If this nation, whether it's corporate America or beyond, was exercising fairness and truly, truly looking for the best candidates and not engaging in favoritism that favored primarily white males, then there would have never been any need for DEI, just like there would not have been any need for affirmative action or other things. And so for me, when I think about it, that's what I believe folks who speak against DEI, specifically on the right, obviously, is missing. They don't bring up that element. To that, you say what?
Well, I think it's mixing a lot of things. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with diversity. Okay. And if I, were remaking America, I would make sure we had it in all forms, in all places. I'd make sure we have lots of different people with lots of different backgrounds and lots of different ideological views running different corporations. Okay. But that's not really what DEI is. DEI is mostly focused on the E, the equity, which is just a joke. Equity means you have the right to end up in the same place, irrespective of how much effort goes into it. That is not an American value. That is not something I value or share in at all. That it's like the whole, at my kids' schools, they still have DEI, at least at my daughter's school. And they were asking, what does it mean? What is equity? And I was explaining. And the woman actually said, this is just this year. She said at our new school, to which we fled to try to get from the super woke school in New York, said exactly what I said is the definition of equity, right? To wind up in the same place. And I said, you know what, Yardley, that is what equity is. And so on Halloween, you should go out there and you should work hard and go to every single house in the neighborhood and get a huge bucket of candy. And then you should go over to some kid's house who didn't trick or treat at all, who was too lazy, who just sat in front of his TV watching some stupid show, and you should give him half your candy because he has the right. He has the right to end up at the same place. And then when you go to take your exams, you have to let the girl who didn't study at all, who just phoned it in because she was on the phone with her friends, copy off your paper. She's entitled.
Because you're white and she's a minority. That was the whole thing about DEI. It was pretty much saying that, you should let yourself be looked over, even though you're the better candidate for somebody who is lacking in performance. So we're going to choose that person lacking in performance because they're of a certain gender or color, or of a certain color and gender.
To the same grade you have, irrespective.
As long as they're just not white or Asian.
Of how hard you've worked and she hasn't. That's equity, and it's immoral. So I'm completely opposed to it. And this is like what Kamala Harris ran on. Diversity is a different story. And I think we really were working toward it, and we were doing pretty well as a country. I think when I grew up and I was in college in the 90s and thereafter, it was something, race was being diminished, and we were starting to look at people as whole human beings. We were seeing interracial marriage go up. It was just becoming less of a thing than in like the 70s
Mhm.
when race was still very much
Right.
people's focus. And then we set ourselves back by making it the top thing that we were supposed to notice
Mhm.
about other people. And that created a wall between us. That created more of a divide between the races in a way I had never experienced in my 50 years on this earth, now 54. And so I think
Mhm.
many of us just
You don't look
recoiled.
it, by the way. You don't look
Oh,
it.
thank
You
you.
don't look it
Thank
at
you.
all. I just want to let you know that. Okay, but go
Thank
ahead.
you. So that was, my problem. And then we had the messaging around it. And I'll tell you, so just one example, my kid's school in New York, one of the best schools in the nation. This is this school from which we fled. It was, I have two boys and a girl, and our boys were at this boys' school. And they actually made it mandatory reading for the faculty there. This thought.
Hey, shout out to my man Luke. He says, Mr. Set, why are you not a brainwashed liberal? Because, bro, I'm a man who actually wants a family, who want to see Americans live in peace. I'm actually a heterosexual man who don't believe in critical race theory, who don't believe in a victimhood mentality, and that's kind of what the libs kind of push on my people, and I'm good on that. So I'd also say I'm not liberally brainwashed, because I don't believe all white people are evil. So that's one of the main reasons too. Trust me. I mean, a lot of black liberals, they kind of run off this ideology that just all white people are evil and they owe us reparations and this madness that they honestly can't substantiate, but they'll say it. And it is not just so liberal of people. I mean, so liberal. It's like they just say stuff that they cannot substantiate or they cannot really argue for. And I'm not all you liberals, not all of you. I mean, some of the more educated of y'all are okay, but even then, I feel bad for y'all because it must be hard to defend the indefensible. Shout out to JD Vance. And shout out to Luke. He says, will China defeat America? I mean, boy, hell nah. They can't beat us. They won't beat us. I mean, look, they can't beat us due to the fact that they kind of they kind of hinge their whole economy on us. They hinge their whole economy on they'll never find out about how much we're screwing them. That was literally their mentality. They hinged their whole economy on, they just need us so much for production because we're just so great China. It's like China got a little bit of narcissistic. I'm gonna be honest with you, as if we can't get some of these rare earth minerals from somewhere else. Like we can't have some other country build these products or these corporations, or we cannot make China an unfavorable market through tariffs, which is exactly what we did. We made them a very unfavorable market for corporations. And for those who can't leave, they're just going to get crushed. For those who can't leave, they will go to another country or come to the US. So we're in a game to honestly where we can't lose. I mean, we hold all the cards here. The only cards that China holds is how they want to lose. I mean, you can lose and you can keep your government, or you can lose and we can squeeze you until your people overtake you, or somebody in your government overtakes, Z, or whatever that guy's name, or the leader of China. It's like it's only going to go one or two ways. It's either, three ways. Either Xi gets it together, or he gets pushed out of power, or the Chinese people just push the entire government out of power, and we start seeing some wild stuff like, I don't know, worst case scenarios, mass execution of the CCP party. Sorry about that. But all right, guys, let's keep it going.
Thought piece by this one professor who posited that in every classroom where white children learn, there is a future killer cop, and that white mothers are indoctrinating their children in Black death. In response to which I said, we're out of here. This is such bullshit. My brother's a cop, first of all. And the nerve to look at our sweet little.
Oh, and one thing that kind of keeps me away from being brainwashed is honestly being a nationalist. Like, I love being an American. I'm all for my country, and I want what's best for my country and my community, of course, which my community resides in this country. So to be for your community, you kind of got to be for America. And to be for America and have the success of America means that you're also wanting the success for your community. So if America ain't doing good, trust me, the Black community ain't going to be doing good either. If America's doing good, then that means the Black community can do good as well. It's just sometimes we don't take advantage of certain opportunities that we have.
boys, what my boy was in kindergarten, and say, "Yeah, there's a future killer cop because of his white skin." It's
Right.
blatantly racist. And by the way, most of DEI hiring.
Okay, she's not wrong. There was that white kid that went to the black school that we all assumed was a school shooter. He wore baggy clothes. He looked a little bit, rock. He had that little punk rock style, and we all assumed bro was a school shooter. Trust me, every black school got it. Yeah, I mean, come on now. I mean, think about how they do us when you're the only black kid in a white school. It's not a fun feeling, or you're one of the few black kids in a white school. It is not a fun feeling, which I've never been. I've never had that experience. Thank God.
And firing and whatever practices are illegal. It is
But I
illegal
got people.
to
I know.
even count race as a
Mm.
factor in hiring or firing.
Okay.
All these companies and these banks who are like, well, in the end, it tips the scales if she's a woman or if he's a black man. Wrong. You just
Mhm.
violated the law. You're not allowed to consider it at all. But we lost our minds after George Floyd. We decided we were going to throw the law out the window or just not enforce it and start living and dying by immutable characteristics. Like I should get extra points because I have a vag, or you should get extra points
Mhm.
because your skin is brown. It's just utter madness.
What do you say? And I'm certainly not equating him with those examples that you just gave, because I get where you're coming from. I could research some of those things. I could come and push back a little bit, but I have to confess you made some good points again, Megan Kelly. But let's get to Pete Hegseth, because I got to tell you, I know that's a friend of yours, a former colleague of yours at Fox News. And I want to let you know, and before I ask this question, I want to let you know I'm not bringing up any of the allegations against that man. My issues against him, I've never brought that stuff up, and I'm not about to. I saw your interview with him. And by the way, I applaud you for how you went down the line, because you were absolutely right when you said nobody else did that with him. You went point by point with the accusations that were levied against him.
I know facts though. Her interview with Pete Hegseth was phenomenal because she went down each one. She's like, "Yeah, you want to explain this little situation, with some dude's wife coming to you, you slept with her, and then she went back and told her husband, like, yo, what was up with all of that?" And yeah, I ain't gonna lie. When I was hearing Pete Hegseth's stories about, his sexual escapades, like, bro, I ain't even gonna lie, bro had some. Hey, bro got game. I ain't gonna lie. Pete Hegseth is apparently good with the ladies. They got to give him that one. I mean, it's not nothing to brag about being in his position, but I gotta say, when I was reading that, when I was hearing him out, I'm like, God damn, I ain't gonna lie, bro was macking out here in these streets.
In terms of his behavior, sexual proclivities, et cetera, et cetera. You did all of that. So I'm not here to get on him about that. Here's my issue with Pete Hegseth. He was a weekend host on Fox News, Megan Kelly. And now he is the Secretary of Defense for the United States of America, overseeing a department with 3.5 million people, 2 million of whom are civilians, by the way. I understand that he served our military honorably, and he is to be respected. And I am not here to disrespect him. But when we talk about DEI, okay, when we talk about somebody being given a hand up, my God, doesn't that qualify, Megan Kelly? Doesn't that qualify?
No. I mean, let me just start by saying Barack
Why not?
Obama was a community organizer. That's it. Yeah, that's it. He had no
Okay,
executive
but he was
experience,
elected,
zero. And we made
Megan.
him commander in chief. Yeah, but I'm just saying, if you want to
But he
talk
was
about
elected.
qualifications to do the job, I'd much rather look at Pete's resume than Barack Obama's. But
Shit.
Pete, yes, he was a weekend.
I don't even know if Barry Soetoro is really from this country, to be honest with you. And I know it's racist to say it, but well, I'm black, so I could say this. Like, bro, we don't even know if Obama was born in this goddamn country. Like Barry Soetoro from Indonesia. Like, how the hell you an American? Like, oh, and then all of a sudden you went to your grandparents' house, going to a high school that costs like 30 grand, I believe, a month. Like, bro, where the hell did Barry Soetoro, aka Barack Obama, come from? And if you even look at his what was it? I think they wrote something about him in the college he went to, and they even said that he was from Kenya. Then they came out and said, "Oh no, that was a typo." So I was like, "All right, cool. Your Jewish mother was in Kenya, had a kid with some Kenyan man, moved you to Indonesia, married a rich Indonesian man in oil. Then all of a sudden you move out there with your grandparents in Hawaii and you're going to some extra fancy school. And then all of a sudden, though, you go from Barry Soetoro to Barack Obama. I'm confused. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm a bit confused and I ain't buying it. I'm just sorry. Just too many holes in that Obama story.
Weekend Fox and Friends host, but I mean, Trump was a Celebrity Apprentice host. Like your stint hosting on TV or not hosting doesn't determine whether you can do the job. Pete was hired because of his military service and after his military service, his years devoting himself to helping vets through Concerned Veterans for America and another charity group that he formed to help veterans get their voices out there in politics. But he served at Gitmo. He left Princeton voluntarily and enlisted so that he could help fight after 9/11. Nobody leaves Princeton to join the armed forces. Nobody. But Pete did. Then he volunteered again to go to Iraq during the most dangerous time. This is when people were being beheaded in Iraq. He was like, send me.
Okay.
And he went. Then Afghanistan, same thing, went back again. And those 3 deployments taught Pete a thing or two about what it means to be a warfighter and how much of a hair trigger we've had in this country over the past couple of decades, and how neocons are really super enthusiastic about fighting every single war in every single pocket of the globe without spending a lot of time thinking about what it's doing to our actual men. And Pete was changed from a neocon to more of a dove. And that's one of the reasons why Trump chose him.
But Megan, let me be fair to you, and I want to be very, very clear. I'm not questioning his military service. I'm not.
And to be honest, yeah, the whole Obama thing wasn't Trump, to be honest. Remember, it was a lot of people before Trump that was talking about Obama's birth records. Like, let's be real. There was a lot of people saying that Obama shouldn't have ran for president, like not just Donald Trump. Donald Trump did not come out with that, Obama's birth certificate whole, fiasco there. Nah, it wasn't Trump. So it's not us believing Trump. Honestly, just us going with with Barack Obama's life has provided us. This is like, bro, Barry Soetoro, dad in Kenya, then moved to Indonesia, married some oil tycoon. Like, I'm not lying to you. This is all actually happened. So it's like really hard to pinpoint where this man was actually born.
I question his record. What I'm saying,
or like I said, we can just go with the narrative and just say, oh yeah, he was born in Hawaii, even though they done put up his birth certificate and prove that it was Photoshop. But hey, let's ignore all that and let's just move on with the conversation. He won. He became president. He got it.
Matter of fact, I'll do you one better. I don't mind people who were ultra critical of Lloyd Austin, his predecessor, and say Pete could do better. I got all of that. What I'm talking about is the bare bones of your qualification. You understand? I'm talking from an administrative perspective, running a department with $3.5 million. And you brought up Obama. Yes, he was a community organizer, but he was also a senator before he got elected as president of the United States.
That doesn't teach you how to run anything.
Up on Capitol Hill. I didn't say it did. I didn't say that. But for years, that's how it happened. I'm talking about the process. You saw a senator, you saw a congressional figure,
Maisie
you saw a governor.
should be the Defense Department chief? No, it's a no. She's an idiot. Like, becoming a U.S. senator doesn't make you qualified to do anything other than sit at the U.S. Senate and drink a bunch of coffee. But Pete, here's the reason.
Being a soldier does.
I'll bring it home for you. What was happening is we were relying too much on the so-called experts and the so-called generals. And that is how we wound up in 2 forever wars. We have a ship of, it's neocons and it's the industrial war machine and it's the Boeings of the world and people who make a lot of money off of military conflicts. And it had become this cottage industry where they saw conflict and they pushed us like an aircraft carrier. They had that much force behind the push to push us into these conflicts. And we had too many Republican leaders in particular who said, yes, I'll do it. And by the way, the Democrats weren't much better. And today are even worse. Yes, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And we're going to spread democracy through the Middle East. Okay, sure. How did that work out? We made a bunch more enemies. Countries hate us even more now. And then we sacrificed generations of blood and treasure. And what happened with Trump 1.0 was he saw it firsthand with people like General Milley, that he shouldn't be talking to the generals and just listening to them. And he actually brought in a bunch of generals to advise him on what we should do about Afghanistan and closing that down. And then he brought in a bunch of enlisted guys. And one of the reasons why the military war machine didn't like Trump was because he said, I'm done listening to the generals. I want to know what the enlisted troops have to say. And they all said, get us out of this war. It's pointless now. And so Trump learned that he needs to talk to the actual war fighters about whether we're winning and losing, whether it's a battle worth fighting, what the actual sacrifice looks like. And there was no better person than Pete, who, by the way, attained the rank of major, which is great. He's not a 4-star general, but he was an officer. And he was also an
Mhm.
actual fighting soldier in the actual armed forces who had put his life on the line.
Two more questions before I let you get out of here, because I know you got to run out. I thank you so much for your time. Question number one: you were critical of Christino. I mean, and obviously, so I mean, you didn't like her in the fatigues with the commercials or whatever. You spoke out against her, so you ain't playing around. You gonna call balls and strikes. I'll give you credit for that. But considering her and how she just got, I think it was her pocketbook stolen over the weekend at a restaurant in DC, including a passport, driver's license, keys, and government access badge. When you consider the security of this nation, we're talking about Pete Hegseth with this whole controversy he's in, with the text messages and stuff like that, and having folks in the text chain and national security issues being open, with his